Welcome back, YouTubers and Madden fans. This is Madden Money Shot, bringing you another Madden 20 preview. We have a lot of free agency stuff happening. If you guys don't know, the NFL free agency just recently started, and a lot of changes have been made already. So I wanted to make something just to keep you guys up to date with some of the more improved rosters. This is early. I'm still going to do a video like this after the draft and stuff like that. I typically do these every year leading up to Madden. The upcoming Madden, to give you guys some previews for the CFMs, or if you guys just like to play regular online. This is going to be what teams have improved the most, and in this video I'm going to do top 10 teams that have improved the most so far. So if you like this type of video, if you want me to continue the series, make sure to either subscribe if you're new to the channel to catch the upcoming ones, or hit the like button and let me know in the comment section that you like these videos. Other than that, let's go ahead and let's get into the top 10 most improved teams. Starting off at number 10, I got the Baltimore Ravens. This team right here made some really key additions like Earl Thomas to solidify that secondary. They brought in Mark Ingram as well, but they lost too many players. A lot of them were old guys like Eric Weddle, who still had some value in the game. It wasn't really fast. Terrell Suggs had value as a defensive end, wasn't fast. But they lost young guys like C.J. Mosley, and they lost some receivers. So it's like overall they lost probably more than they gained. But this is still a good roster, so they make the list. There's not a lot of teams that have too many dramatic changes to the point where they get on this list. Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals. This is a team, they made some pretty good additions as far as, they're not really sexy additions. I mean, they got some new linemen, J.R. Sweezy. They got a new right tackle, Marcus Gilbert. I mean, when you have one of the worst offensive lines in the league, that is some pretty good additions. Now, when the draft comes, if they draft Kyler Murray, like a lot of people think they'll draft number 1, they're going to move up pretty high on the next list I do. When I do, I typically do a lot of lists based off of these type of franchises. One of them is like good teams to build. They'll be a pretty good team to build if they get a quarterback like that. But for now, some additions to the offensive line was pretty good. And they also got some linebackers with Jordan Hicks from the Eagles, from my Birds. A really good player, although he's not healthy a lot. And Terrell Suggs, I mean, like I say, he's not fast. If I were you, I would take this guy and make him a defensive end. Next up, we got the Buffalo Bills. Just like the Arizona Cardinals, it looked like they tried to put a lot of talent around their young quarterback in Josh Rosen, or whatever quarterback they possibly draft. The Bills pretty much did the same thing. They went out and got a couple of receivers, which is really key when it comes to Madden. Cole Beasley and John Brown, who's gonna really good receiver as far as stretching the field. So they add that to guys like Zay Jones and Robert Foster that are already pretty good receivers. So they have a pretty deep receiving core. But in Madden, he's pretty good. I mean, I don't think these overalls necessarily reflect what the overall is going to be in the upcoming game, because typically free agent additions get a little bit of a boost when it comes to their overalls, because the things that sell Madden are the rookies and the new rosters. So they like to make the new rosters a little bit sexier with higher overalls and stuff like that, and even bumps and speed and stuff like that. I'll get into that as I go down the line here. But they also made some additions to their offensive line, and Mitch Morse, who's one of the better centers in the league. Next up, we got the Packers. The Packers are a team that don't typically build too much in free agency. That's really hasn't been their MO, and they've got a lot of criticism for it. But so far in this offseason, they made some pretty good additions. Adrian Amos, I mean, he's a favorite in the community because of that insane speed. I didn't know he was a free. I thought he was a free safety, though. You'll probably have to switch that up. It says he's a strong safety, but he's definitely better roaming the middle of the field because of that outrageous speed. And then they also offered some. They got some defensive players like Preston Smith. I got to find him. Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith are both pass rushers as far as I know. They're listed as linebackers here, but if you run a 4-3, you want to swap them out to defensive end. They got some speed, 81 and 82. They can play either. They can play linebacker or they can play defensive end. That's one of the benefits to those signings. They didn't get the most signings. They also got a lineman, but I think the quality of the signings that they got, you can see in their overalls, they're all above 80. Coming up next, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. My Philadelphia Eagles, I might be a little bit of a homer here because I know that they lost some players. They lost Golden Tate. They lost Jordan Hicks, and they lost some linemen, Michael Bennett, and they cut Timmy Jernigan, but I think some of the additions that they made kind of balance that out. It's still a really great roster on top of it. Deshaun Jackson is still a pretty fast receiver. I expect him to get a little bit of a boost, though, because he did lead the league in yards per catch last year. And like I said, when guys change teams, they typically give him a little bit of a ratings bump. So I expect him to be the fastest player on this roster when Madden 20 comes out. And then last but not least, I mean, the biggest additions were him and Malik Jackson. They just got a linebacker who, isn't worth too much. But Malik Jackson, He's definitely going to be a good addition next to Fletcher Cox. Next up, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. This is another team. They lost some quality players. D Ford, Eric Berry they cut. They lost Justin Houston. These are some big losses on a defense that already was pretty subpar, but it's still got a pretty good roster. And some of the additions they made, like Tyrann Mathieu for one, are a pretty good addition. They got Damian Wilson, outside linebacker. He's not necessarily a game breaker, but this is a team. They're probably gonna have to upgrade their pass rush in the draft now, because that was kind of their one redeeming quality on defense. On the offensive side, though, they did add another running back. I don't know if he's gonna be. He could be the starter. Damian Williams. I watched him last year. He looked pretty darn good. But the 1-2 punch of these guys on an already outstanding offense is going to be pretty amazing in Madden 20. Next up, we are getting into the big dogs now. The top 4 are probably on another level from any other. The lower tier teams that I just mentioned don't have near the improvements that these teams have going forward. With that being said, I think the Niners could have easily been in the running for number 1. I just think, they've put together an impressive list of players, but it might not be the impact players that some of the future teams we're going to mention are. But without a doubt, the amount of players they brought in is incredible. Tevin Coleman was one of the better players as far as Madden's concerned on the market. 94 speed, 95 agility, really talented running back. When you add him to a young Matt Breida, and you already have Jerick McKinnon, these guys are all over 93 speed. McKinnon might not be there on the roster. He might get cut. I hear that none of his money is really guaranteed, or there's some loophole that didn't get out of that contract. So you might only have Breida and Coleman, but that's fine. You don't need 3 running backs anyway. But if you do have McKinnon still, trade one of these guys for as much as you can get. But their backfield is loaded. They added a receiver today, on the day that I'm recording it. Jordan Matthews, former Eagle. He's all right. I'm not going to act like he's too great. But as far as Madden's concerned, he's definitely a quality receiver to have. You got a 3-wide receiver set here that looks pretty good. Obviously Marcus Goodwin is on another level as well as far as speed. And then I think they added at least 1 lineman, nothing too crazy though. But on the defensive side, they went kind of heavy with some linebackers. D Ford, whatever system you run, if you want to run him as a linebacker, you want to run him as a defensive end, it's up to you. Obviously a really good player. They also got a middle linebacker, Quan Alexander, one of the elite speed guys as far as talent too. I expect his overall to be higher than that. It's kind of surprising how low it is. But 87 speed, when you have speed like that as a user middle linebacker, that's really all you need. And then they also got Robbie Gould. I guess he was already on the roster, so what am I talking about? But they did get a cornerback, Jason Verrett. Here's a guy, if you know anything about him, solid cornerback, always hurt has been his issue. But if you look at the levels of which they improved, every level on defense. Next up, we got the Jets. Here's another team that could have easily been that much higher. They were so close to signing Anthony Barr before he went back to Minnesota, but they still made some really great improvements. Le'Veon Bell, obviously, possibly the best running back in the game, depending on how you like to play it. As far as a running back and a receiver, he might be the best to do both. But he's definitely something that you're going to be happy to have. Sam Darnold, good young quarterback, working up too. So it's like you have everything there you need. They added Jamison Crowder, decent slot receiver type of guy. They already had some pretty good receivers in Anunwa and Robbie Anderson, but bringing in Crowder gives them a pretty solid 3-wide receiver set, which is what you need. And then on the defensive side, they made some additions as well. The biggest being C.J. Mosley, the young, a 3-4-time Pro Bowler. Excellent speed. 85 speed is all you need. I forgot to mention that they did trade for a guard as well to improve their offensive line, Kalichi Osemele. I forget what they traded, but it was a really good lineman too to bolster their offensive line. And when you have you have a franchise running back now, you needed to get that offensive line better. So they are a little bit higher than some teams because of the name quality of some of the additions that they made. Next up, we got the Oakland Raiders. It's not every year that a team as a 99 overall team in the offseason, and they did it without giving up any of their first round picks or their second round picks. So total theft there by the Raiders. So this is, a signing like that is going to have you up pretty high. A trade like that, I should say, rather. But Antonio Brown is a huge addition. Then they went ahead and they added Tyrell Williams, too. This guy is a former 1,000-yard receiver, I think. I think he had 1 year over 1,000 yards with the Chargers. So that's a really good 2-wide receiver to do it. You got your height guy, if you like that. You got your all-around guy, obviously, and speed guy in Antonio Brown. He does everything. Seth Roberts, obviously a pretty good speed guy too. So they got some good receivers. They did lose, Jared Cook, who had a monstrous year. They didn't lose him yet. I mean, he hasn't signed anywhere, but I think the word is he's probably going to be going. But if you really want some undercover beasts, I'm not sure if Darren Waller's still on the roster or Derek Carrier, but if you look at the speeds on these guys, those guys are really good tight ends to work up. But either way, we'll continue down the improvements that they made. Trent Brown, they signed him to, I think, the richest contract in history for linemen. I'm not entirely sure. And then the last improvement that they made was they picked up a safety in LaMarcus Joyner. I'm not really a fan of LaMarcus Joyner at free safety, because if you run cover threes, he's going to be, he's going to be out in the middle there at 5'8". But he's definitely a guy you can switch over to strong safety, and he's definitely a quality player. And then last but not least, number 1, we got the Cleveland Browns. This team right here is going to be the most popular team in Madden next year. I mean, they're always good in Madden. It's funny, like even when they're bad, they've been good in Madden. When they had Johnny Manziel, that was a horrible team, but everybody wanted the Cleveland Browns in Madden. They've been that way forever, and it's continued. They're going to continue that trend with Baker Mayfield and some of the additions they made. The running back class, or the running back core that they have, is incredible. They added Kareem Hunt to an already established backfield to the point where now it's like they're talks that they might cut Duke Johnson or trade him. But that's a hell of a 1-2 punch. I mean, this is a team that has, I don't know if they're better as far as the running back department or the passing department, because when you go to the receivers now that they went ahead and picked up Odell Beckham, I mean, they're just loaded on both sides. Jarvis Landry obviously still there too. So I mean, pick your poison, man. I mean, they have this. It almost looks like a Madden offense. Like you wouldn't even think that somebody could put together this type of skill positions on a real life team. This looks like somebody put this together in an offline franchise mode, and that's what they have in real life. I mean, it's incredible. And then they also went out and they added a defensive tackle, which nobody really cares about, in Sheldon Richardson. Good player, though, but the defense was already pretty solid. Like, that's the thing. Like, they had a really good defense last year. I didn't even mention they picked up Olivia Vernon, too. They traded one of their linemen for Olivia Vernon, so their offensive line's down a little bit, but, nothing too crazy. So that's it. That's the vid. If you guys agree or disagree, let me know in the comment section. If you think I missed anybody, you think that the ranking was out of place, let me know. Other than that, if you guys want to see more videos like this, please let me know in the comment section, like button as well, because I do plan on doing them, but if they don't get, nobody watches them, I might not. So that's it. Other than that, thanks for watching Mad Money Shot. Need more help or just want to show your support? Then head over to my Patreon and join my team, where you can get exclusive content like ebooks and bonus plays, as well as early access to my vids and more. Link in the description below.